Hey everyone, so as of this recording, I finally reached my floor tutorial in the How to Build Your House in 3D playlist. So if you've been following, this video was actually created right after the floor tutorial because I believe it's about time I spoke slightly more in depth about this topic because we're gonna have to do a lot of modeling soon. Basically on your end, especially if you want to make kitchen cabinets and stuff like that, so you're gonna have to understand what is 3D modeling, so this video is for that. So right off the bat here, I have some images that I got out of Google, and this is basically an example of how to model a hand in 3D. So the basic principle of modeling you just have to remember is that whatever shapes, no matter how complex it is, it always comes from a simple shape. So for example, your hand is made up of like a rectangle and a few cylinders that are joined together, as you can see over here. And then of course, your cylinder, you can add more details, and you start to massage it to make it look like a hand, a fingernails. With each iteration, more complexity is added on top of the other, and in the end it becomes a hand. So you just need to remember the core basics is that everything you see, try and figure out what is the most simple shape that the object started out with. So of course, like for kitchen cabinets, it's brainless. It's gonna be a box or a cube, which is the standard stuff we always use to model anyway. And something you need to understand is that you can always do things a different way. There's no right and wrong. The important thing is that you get to where you want to be. So in this next example I want to show you is that there are actually two ways, especially for organic stuff. So what I mean by organic stuff is more like lifelike stuff with smooth curves, because if you're modeling a car or cabinet, generally things are quite straight, the surfaces are very straight and angled, whereas for like organic objects like plants or humans, or for example this example here, there are two heads, and there are many ways to do that. So this example shows that you can create a head from a cube, and this example over here on the right, you can create a head from a sphere. So there's no right and wrong. You can always use a sphere to massage this into a kitchen cabinet. It's up to you, but of course, if you're gonna take a sphere and massage it to a kitchen cabinet, you're gonna take like a much more longer time than if you use the cube. So I just have to let you know that there are many ways to get to where you want to get to, but always take the shortcut. Yeah, that's 3D. So now that you know what basic modeling is, or what the idea is, let's gonna jump straight into Blender, and I wanted to show you some things. So this is a default Blender scene that they create for you, a cube, and these are one of the objects that are called primitives. So primitives are like basic shapes. So if you do a Shift A and add a mesh, you're gonna see all these basic shapes. And of course there's gonna be a monkey, which is just for fun. It's actually like an inside joke or something at Blender. So just look at the top view, so you have a cube, which is here. You can have a plane. This is like one of my favorites. You can have a torus or cylinder, which also very famous, especially if you did that donut tutorial. You're gonna use the torus to start with. And also cylinders, you can use this for pipes. So yeah, you get the idea that these are basic shapes, and you can massage these into more complex items by adding more details. So let me start off by adding a cube mesh into the scene, and I wanted to bring your attention to the bottom left hand corner, which you can see there's this small little property menu that pops up right after you create it. And remember, this thing only appears when you just created something, or when your action has just been completed. The moment you click outside the selection, it disappears and you cannot get it back again. So make sure that when you create something, do take a look at this menu. Of course, there's another way to bring this back, but in certain cases, you're not going to be able to adjust the settings inside anymore. So make sure that when you create something, make sure to have a lookout for the property menu. So let me just delete this and recreate it so we can open this property menu to have a look. For example, let me go into the edit menu, and let's say I select this edge over here, and I press Ctrl B for bevel, and then once I left mouse button, you can see a bevel property popped up. And this thing is really important over here because, for example, I can start adjusting the width of the bevel, and I can also add segments. So as you can see here, I can make a rounded edge. You know, it's going to be really hard to do a rounded edge later on if you don't do it through this property menu. So this really helps you, especially when you want to model, you know, cabinets with like rounded edges. This is a really good place to start with. So as you can see, the moment I select an empty area, my property menu has disappeared and I have no way to get back. So this is very, very important. Make sure you always look out for the menu over here on the bottom left hand side. So something I have to mention really quickly, and it's also very important, is whenever you're modeling something, make sure you're modeling it flat on the ground or vertically 90 degrees up. So what I mean by that is, for example, let's take this HDB toilet for example. There's this window panes that are slanted at an angle. Like, you never ever want to model the planes at an angle like this. You model it flat. So let me jump quickly into Blender by showing you what I mean. So we have this single plane, as you can see, and you sort of want to add the details like this, which is flat on the ground. Or if you really want to, you can also do it this way and add details. So for example, you know, I'm gonna do a edge loop here to add the sides, and I'm gonna select the side and start to extrude it. So as you can see, when it's either flat or at a 90 degree, you know, vertical straight up angle, it's easy to just move stuff around because your moving locking systems are always at straight or vertical 90 degree angles. But if you actually rotate this, so let me do a slant like this, and if you wanted to actually model something like this, it's going to be really, really tough, because let's say I wanted to push this upwards to make it even higher, and when I select G, as you can see, I can't really lock it to the angle that I actually rotated into just now. So, you know, you're gonna get really weird inconsistencies with your model if you do things like this. So just make sure you avoid this and always model it flat or vertical if you have to. So with all that said, I just wanted to let you know that there's nothing you cannot do in 3D. The sky is not the limit. There's many tools and there's many techniques to overcome technical issues that you might have in modeling or rendering or whatever. So don't worry about all that first, because, you know, there are actually ways to deal with it in the future, which we will probably get to next time. But that's more of an advanced level stuff. So let's just focus on the pure basics right now, because the pure basics is really all you need to visualize your house. There's really you don't need fancy full advanced stuff. But of course, you know, if you have time, you can always learn the more advanced stuff. But this whole basics thing is going to be focusing purely on the basics, and I just have to let you know that first. So before I start diving into modeling, I have to mention this thing called the 3D cursor, which I probably haven't mentioned much about it or even at all, because this thing is going to be very vital to all your headaches. Because I bet when I first started learning Blender, I got so confused because most of the other 3D softwares have nothing like this, and I think Blender might be the only one that has this thing called the 3D cursor, which is what you're looking at right now. So this is an example default scene. You can go to File, New, General, and this is what you'll get. And this center circle and this lines here, which is called an axis, it's actually created at the 0, 0, 0 world origin. So what is the world origin is where the entire 3D space, it sort of starts from one point, which is at the 0, 0, 0 mark. So X it's at 0, Y it's at 0, and Z it's at 0. So this is called the world origin, and the 3D cursor will always be created at the world origin. So unfortunately, as a beginner, I tend to mash my buttons a lot in Blender, and I may accidentally move this 3D cursor around the scene without me knowing. And how do you actually move your 3D cursor around? It's shift right click, and that's how you move your 3D cursor around. and this happens a lot, so don't blame yourself. It still happens to me as well, but this is not really a real issue because you can always zero out your 3D cursor by pressing the Shift C button to bring it back to the world origin. And also you can go to your view tab under the N properties menu, and you can see over here in the view there is this 3D cursor, and you can always zero out its location and rotation here. So one of the things you have to note about this 3D cursor is you always want to know where it is, because when you create a new object, let's say you're going to create a plane, it's going to be created where your 3D cursor is. So if you are somewhere here doing your modeling and you wanted to create a new mesh, say a circle, and you're like, wait, where's the circle? There you go, it's actually where your 3D cursor is. So you sort of have to know about its existence just because it's going to help you in things down the road. And I have to mention about this 3D cursor now before we start modeling, because I bet if you are modeling in a scene where you're already building your house, your 3D cursor will not be at the origin, which is 0, 0, 0. It's going to be somewhere else. So do note that your objects should be created at the 3D cursor. So I hope this video really helps you understand what the basics of modeling is and where your 3D cursor is, because in the next video when we actually dive into the modeling, we'll be starting out in a brand new scene, and you have to understand that your 3D cursor will be in the middle, so whatever you create will be created in the 3D cursor. And if you are actually starting to model stuff in another scene of yours and you don't see your models created in the world origin, it's because of the 3D cursor. So this video is basically just the prerequisite for the next video that I'm going to make, and we're going to dive into some really simple and basic modeling techniques. Thank you.